Greetings, Wilkinson here. I'm back, and today my guest is the boss, Joe Boss. I met Joe through his girlfriend, Melanie Blue. As most of you know, I'm involved in the Bent Theater in town, and Melanie is an actor, and she's a great gal. And I don't know, we met at a party or something, didn't we? Or
I think so.
Or something. Maybe one of the plays. I don't know.
I think I met at one of the plays. I think maybe perhaps I was over with Melanie helping to, check people into it.
Yeah, but I met you before that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you were checking people in, but
yeah.
Anywho, who are you?
I'm Joe Boss. Joe Boss.
And who and what is Joe Boss?
Joe Boss is for career-wise, professional-wise, I am an addiction and codependency counselor, and I've been doing that for about 16 years. And I'm also in recovery myself from both for 22 years. And I have such a passion for it, and so I love to do it. It's something that I know is in my blood.
What made you get into it?
I think my own addiction, for sure, and getting clean and sober 22 years ago. And then, I'll say this, that at the end of 2 years of being sober, I was miserable. I was unhappy, and
really?
I just was miserable. And honestly, I was probably just as miserable at the end of 2 years as I was right before I got sober. Damn near suicidal, honestly.
That's not much of a sales pitch.
Well, but I mean, that's where addiction takes us.
Right.
And even because a person is sober doesn't mean that everything is all happy and rainbows and sunshine at that point.
Right.
I drank for a reason. And, that reason was to escape. That reason was to, it provided me with my sense of well-being. So alcohol was my solution. And even though I was sober, so 2 years I didn't have a solution. And so I was anxious, afraid, depressed, the whole 9 yards. And those are all the things that I drank over. And at the end of 2 years, I was going to AA, and trust me, it was helpful. But I had a sponsor. I went to my sponsor and I said, his name was Ron. And I said, Ron, I'm done. If this is what sobriety is all about, give me an 8-ball and a jug and I'm out of here. And, he said, well, just slow your roll. If you'll do me one thing. And, he sent me to an Al-Anon meeting. And at the time, I had no idea why. But I was desperate. I'm like, fine, I'll try it.
What is Al-Anon?
Al-Anon is, it's a support group for friends or family members of alcoholics.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah, I guess I've heard that.
Right, yeah. So
why did he send you to that?
Well, because he knew I was codependent to no end, and Al-Anon is really all about codependency. But he didn't tell me that. He just said, I want you to go. And like I said, I was desperate, and fine, I'll try anything at this point. I don't want to go back to what I was doing before. I was a cocaine, meth head, alcoholic, and it was miserable, and I didn't want to go back to that. My life.
But you're lucky you're alive.
I am lucky I'm alive. You're really exactly right. I am lucky that I'm alive. A lot of people don't make it, but I sat in that Al-Anon meeting, and he sent me to this meeting, and it was on a Friday night, and there was about me and I think 6 or 7 women in the meeting. And I realized sitting in there, I was the only alcoholic in the room. They were spouses. Their spouses were alcoholic.
Right.
And so I felt like I was really in the lion's den, to tell you the truth, because they were pissed at their husbands. And I didn't get a whole lot out of it. But I tell you, it started a ball rolling. And I met with my sponsor again, and he took me to a Codependence Anonymous meeting the very next day. And for anybody that's been to a CODA meeting, that typically they will read a long list of patterns and characteristics of codependence at the beginning of the meeting. And it was read, and I identified with every single one of those patterns and characteristics in some way, shape, or form, some more than others, of course.
Wow.
But I thought, oh my God, I'm an absolute mess. I mean, this is why I drank. I mean, if I got down to causes and conditions of why I drank and why I used, it was right there in black and white on paper. It was there. And so I was overwhelmed, but at the same time, I thought, if somebody's taken the time to write this out, I hope there's a solution, that it's not just a tease, right? And it turns out there is a solution. And so that became a very intricate part of my own recovery, is dealing with my own codependency.
What makes a person codependent, do you know?
Well, there's such a broad umbrella. Codependency is a very broad umbrella. So a lot of behaviors and attitudes and kind of ways of doing things can fall under that umbrella. What makes a person codependent is at some point in their life, they have disconnected from themselves. And so in a nutshell, I would define codependency as a dependence on something outside of myself for my sense of purpose, my sense of identity, my sense of well-being, my sense of self-esteem, self-worth. And so it would be a dependence on something outside of me for that. So by very nature of addiction, my relationship with alcohol was a codependent relationship. I depended on it for my sense of being okay. And along with the other drugs that I did as well, take away the drugs, and I will look to fill that void with something else. I'll look to fill it with relationships, with sex, with food, with money, with you name it, material stuff. At one point, I was just spending money like there is no tomorrow, buying dirt bikes, buying stereo equipment. I had no business buying, and I was just sinking myself into debt. But it was all trying to fill a hole. And yeah, it takes a toll.
What do you like about your biz?
I love seeing the light come on in somebody's eyes. That is absolutely just the most wonderful thing, to see a person come in who is defeated, beat down, and in some cases, and maybe even many cases, completely hopeless. And to see that hope return to them and see the light come on, to see their family come back around them, friends come back around them, because look, alcoholics and addicts, there's varying levels of bottoms, so to speak, as far as how low a person goes. Some people lose it all. Other people get 2 DUIs, but keep the house, keep the job, the relationships, whatever. So bottoms might vary as far as how much is taken away from a person. But to see the family come back in and be around them and trust them, and it takes work, and it can take years for that to happen. Honestly, a lot of bridges get burned.
So in your work, an addict is going to keep doing, they go back and keep doing the things. So I'm guessing that people come to you over a period of time. They'll come and have your session with you, and they'll say, oh, I slipped this week, and they keep slipping. Is that, how do you feel about that when they?
Well, yes, people definitely slip, relapse, whatever term a person wants to call it. It definitely happens. I would say that relapse or slipping does not have to be a part of a person's recovery, but for many people it is. But I also hope that so my goal is that when somebody relapses or slips, my goal is to sit down with them and let's see what happened, because I do not believe that relapse happens just like that.
Right.
It's a process that leads up to it. And it's usually not what I'm doing, it's what I'm not doing that results me in the relapse. So the relapse is simply the evidence of the relapse. Really, the relapse started before I took the drink or the drug. And so I want to help them recognize, well, when did that relapse begin?
So, and give an example. What are you talking about? How would that work?
Well, what it would work would be, I might sit down with somebody and do maybe what's called a relapse autopsy, which then we would look at behaviors, attitudes, and choices made before they took the drink or the drug, behaviors, attitudes, and choices made before that, and before that, and before that. I would usually relapses start as an emotional relapse. Something starts to disconnect, and they'll stop doing things. If a person is actively involved in one of the 12-step programs, whether that's AA or NA or CA, or there's a whole host of them, they stop going to these meetings. And these meetings are incredibly valuable. They're incredibly helpful. It's a real sense of community in these meetings. And I think community and connection is an absolute necessary component to long-term recovery.
Right.
And there's a difference between recovery and sobriety. Sobriety is simply the absence of the drink or the drug. Recovery is the absence of the drink or the drug, plus working on and establishing emotional sobriety. And emotional sobriety is the key to long-term. So I really want to work with people and understand where were the emotional lapses, what drove it, what's behind it, and what can you do about it.
Let's talk about a little about you. So where'd you grow up?
I grew up in Roswell, New Mexico, Alien, USA. Yes.
Did you ever see any green people?
Only the statues and the costumes, but yeah, nothing.
And the alien stores you're talking about.
And the alien
You mentioned
stores.
it earlier.
Yeah, there's an alien gift shop or store or museum on every corner in Roswell, just about. I was just there last week, and it had been about a year and a half since I'd been there, but it's identical as when I was there previously. But I mean, I saw things in the sky that I couldn't explain. I really literally have seen what would appear to be an airplane moving across the sky and to do a 90-degree turn. So I can't explain that. There's a lot of military presence in New Mexico with White Sands Missile Range. It's not that far from Roswell. And just outside of Roswell is a retired, closed-up Air Force base where the supposed alien and an alien spaceship that crashed, I think 1935, was taken. So I mean, there's who knows what I've seen. I mean, I've seen stuff, but I don't know what it was or is, and is it alien or is it something else? I don't know.
Well, when we talked earlier, you said you think there's some truth to it in some area.
I do. Yeah, I definitely, as we said, or as I said a little while ago, I think it's maybe not arrogant, but perhaps short-sighted to believe that in a universe as large as the universe that we live in, which is never-ending and as expansive as it is, that we are it. There is nothing else out there. I think the likelihood that there is something out there besides us is probably pretty high. So I definitely, I don't disbelieve, but I've never seen enough to absolutely prove it to me either.
Cool. So let's go back to your biz. I'm jumping around here.
That's right.
I like to jump around.
Yeah.
So when we talked earlier, you said you have gay and straight clients.
Yes.
You're straight. Did you have a girlfriend?
Yes.
Do you see any patterns between the two? Not your girlfriend, the gay and the straight guys.
No, because honestly, codependency looks the same. It doesn't discriminate. It doesn't care what color your skin is. It doesn't care what your sexuality is. It just doesn't care. And it's the same with addiction, right? So, no, I mean, the behaviors and the characteristics of if somebody is codependent, of whether they're gay or straight, it's the same across the board.
What brought you to Palm Springs?
I moved to Palm Springs, I think, 34 years ago, something like that.
Oh, that long?
Yeah, I've been out here for a minute. I was a meat cutter. Worked for those of you from Southern California and remember Alpha Beta grocery stores. They're from way back in the day. I did an apprenticeship for meat cutting in Alpha Beta in Riverside, and union, got laid off, and then I started working for a place in Redlands called Gerard's, which is comparable or comparable to the Jensen's out here in the desert.
Right.
And as I worked there, a gentleman came in one day who was friends with the manager in the meat department, and his name was Richard, and Richard was the manager of the meat department in Jensen's that used to be up here on Sunrise in Tachiva, I believe. And anyway, got to talking with Richard. I had a friend that lived out here in the Palm Springs area, and he offered me a job, and I said, yep, I'll take it. So I moved to Palm Springs and started working at Jensen's, and did that for, I don't know, several years. I worked at Jensen's, and then
Now, were you single then?
No, I was dating, and I got married in, I I still remember my anniversary date, probably because it was the PIN number for my ATM, my ATM card. So I won't say. Well, it didn't really matter. Got married in February of 1990, and so we both moved out here, and we got an apartment. San Jacinto Village is where we moved to, and lived there. Anyway, and we got married, and then we had 3 kids together and raised all 3 kids here in the area. Eventually we bought a house in Indio, and then we bought a house in La Quinta, and we lived out on the east end of the valley most of the time. And currently I'm in Bermuda Dunes.
Huh. You wrote a book.
I did. I wrote a book.
About?
It's called Take Your Power Back. It's really, the title is, in my years of doing this work that I've been doing, codependency and addiction, particularly in the codependency world, we tend to give our power away to other people, to people, places, and things. We give the power of our feelings and the power of our emotions away to other people. We let outside things determine how we feel. And so we become dependent on those things for our sense of well-being. So I wrote this book, and so the first 10 pages, it's a journal as well, but the first 10 or 12 pages are me talking about what it means to take your power back, what it means to give your power away, and then the last remaining 90 or so pages are in a journal format, a very specific way of journaling. And I know I've used this book and this style of journaling myself for years. And when I first used it I couldn't even tell you how long ago it was, but it's probably about 15 years ago, maybe 13, whatever. The type of journaling it is to identify specifically, to write out, what am I thinking? Our thoughts lead to feelings. I would say that the vast majority of every feeling that you experience is preceded by a thought. And the question is the thought...
Once you stop thinking, that's the answer. And
that's a possibility, right? So, how many thoughts go through our head each minute of every day, right? So the question then becomes, is what I'm thinking even accurate? We tend to oftentimes think in... we either minimize or we catastrophize, and neither one are accurate, right? So I'll just give you an example. The first time I wrote out something like that myself in a form of journaling, here's what I wrote in a nutshell. I wrote, I'm worried about paying my mortgage. I don't think I can make it this month. I'm going to end up just doubling it up next month. Wait, who am I kidding? If I can't pay a single mortgage this month, there's no way I can pay double next month. So I'm going to end up losing my house. It's going to get foreclosed on because I'm going to get so far behind. My wife is going to be pissed, and she's going to hate me because I can't keep a roof over her head. And so she's going to leave me. She's going to take the kids, and she's going to go find some rich asshole who, can I cuss on here? Sure. She's going to go find some rich asshole who will take care of her in a way that I couldn't take care of her. So that's what I was thinking in a nutshell. And then if I carry that a little bit further and I go, okay, well, what am I feeling? Well, I'm feeling anxious, afraid, scared, humiliated, sad, depressed, angry, embarrassed, ashamed. Now, is what I'm thinking accurate? Well, in everything I just said there, and as far as what I was thinking, there's only one line in that entire thing that's accurate. Do you know what it is? I'm worried about paying my mortgage.
Right.
Everything else is a guess. Everything else is a projection. Everything else is made up. And so my feelings are connecting to made up problems that don't exist. So rather than try to solve a bunch of problems that don't exist, how about I focus on the problem that does exist and try to solve that one rather than all of the other ones? And when I bring it back into the world of reality,
right,
my feelings start to match that rather than matching the catastrophic, worrisome fearfulness of all of the stuff that doesn't exist.
What happened in that scenario?
In that scenario, I had a conversation with my wife. She was in this with me, so no, she didn't think less of me. No, she didn't leave me. I talked to my boss. I talked to him about a raise, about getting more hours. I even looked around at picking up a part-time job, delivering pizzas, stuff like that. And I got back on track. I solved the problem of made the mortgage payment and got in some extra money, had to make a phone call to the bank and say, hey, what can we do? And have some conversations. But the point is I focused on the problem and the problem got solved, and all the other stuff never took place. So, yeah, it's about keeping myself in the present moment rather than in the made-up future moments or the made-up, past moments.
What was the purpose in doing the book?
The purpose of doing the book was to give people a tool to start identifying their feelings. Look, as I've said, I've been doing this for 16 years, and one of the things that I have noticed across the board with almost every single person I work with, I won't say everyone I work with, but I also see it outside of the people I work with, is people think they have a good ability to identify what they're feeling, but most people don't. Or maybe many, but probably most people don't. If I ask a person, what are you feeling right here, right now? Most people stumble and they have a very difficult time answering that. Well, I feel fine. Okay, well, fine's not a feeling, right? So let's, do you feel good? Do you feel excited? Do you feel sad? Do you feel embarrassed? Whatever, right? There's a whole list of things. So it can be difficult to kind of identify specifically what I'm feeling because we don't really, as humans, we're kind of on autopilot and we just go through our day with 1,000 thoughts going through our day, and we're usually reacting to all those thoughts rather than responding to those thoughts. I mean, we don't ever really take the time to check in with ourselves. And so the point of this book is take the time to check in with yourself. You're valuable. You're worth this time and this energy to put into yourself and to start taking responsibility for your feelings. Quit holding the world around you responsible for how you feel. You take on that responsibility because the world will let you down. They will always.
You made me feel that.
Right, and that's bullshit, right? This is one of the Melanie will joke with me about that because I always say that nobody can make you feel anything, and I get that could be debatable and argumentative, but if you told me that I made you feel something, then what you're basically telling me is not only did I make you feel it, but I'm responsible for it and I have to fix it.
Right.
And I don't have that kind of power. That's up to you to fix it. I may have done something totally screwed up and it hurt your feelings, and I get that, and it's not fair, but it's not my job to fix it either. No, yes, I can own it and acknowledge it and make apologies and amends where I need to, of course. But we really need, as a species, we really do need to start taking more responsibility for our own personal feelings and quit holding the world hostage for them.
I asked you earlier what you liked about your work. What do you not like?
In my current work, there's not a whole lot that I dislike. I can tell you I have worked for treatment centers in the past, and what I dislike is the amount of paperwork that goes along with working in a treatment center. And I don't like the way insurance operates in the addiction and treatment world. Insurance has far too much power, and I believe they're not an unbiased participant in the process. Granted, they're a participant because they're footing the bill, but they are not unbiased, and they want to pay as little as humanly possible. And that oftentimes results in people getting less care than what they actually need, and even put into levels of care. So there's various levels of care. Of course, there's residential treatment. There's PHP, which is partial hospitalization. There's IOP, intensive outpatient. OP, just outpatient. Aftercare. And insurance companies, the most expensive is residential. It's the most consuming, and it is the most hands-on part of the process, right? And insurance companies, they'll pay, but usually very short amounts of it. And I see people come in that have been, shooting dope, slamming heroin on the streets of New York or LA or wherever. It doesn't really matter where they're at. And this individual needs to have 24/7 care around them to help support them in getting back up on their feet to be able to start making some good decisions. And insurance company will boot them right down to IOP and short term, and it's just setting them up for failure. So I'm not a fan of the insurance process, and I'm not a fan of the miles and miles of paperwork in that process. But where I'm currently doing, I don't take insurance, and the paperwork is just the notes that I do. When I conclude a session with an individual, then I make a note, and I don't mind that in the least. So
I always ask my guests, what do you learn in your life? What do you live by?
What do you learn in your life? What do I live by? I really try to live by the creed or code of patience and tolerance. I believe there are very few big deals. And Melanie, my girlfriend, will joke with me, and she'll call me Simple Joe. And it is. I'm a quite simple person. It takes a lot to get me irritated or aggravated or angry. I'm pretty just low key, and life's too short to make a big deal out of things. And so, the one guarantee in life is change. Well, besides death and taxes, I get that. But outside of that, the only other real guarantee is change, right? So whatever is currently happening now, that will change. There is no ifs, ands, or buts about it. It will change. So if I'm having a bad day, that'll change. If I'm having a good day, that too will change. So no point in getting worked up over it all.
Any regrets in life?
I want to say no. I've had many, many regrets. I have done things that have hurt people, have hurt myself. And there are times when I look back, I would say 95% of all of the things that I've done, I have no regrets in that. If I have regrets, when I look back through my addiction, 2 of my kids were very young. Well, all 3 of them. I have 3 kids. So my oldest was 9 when I got clean and sober. My middle child, my son, was 5. And my youngest was just turning a year when I came out of treatment. So she's never really seen me use or be loaded. The other 2 have. My son and my oldest daughter have. And so if I had regrets, and when I think back at it, there are sometimes things that will kind of poke me in the gut a bit, like, shit.
Right.
When I look back at some of my choices and how I behaved and towards my kids. And even that said, my youngest child, while she's never seen me drink and she's never seen me use, she has most certainly seen me be an asshole. Sobriety doesn't, make somebody just all well and good and kind to soul.
Wait, it doesn't?
I can be just as much of an asshole sober as I can be.
All right, forget it.
Right. So yeah, it has to do some work, and I've done a lot of work in the last 22 years on myself to try to, something that Melanie says that I always really like, and that is build the life you don't want to escape from. And that's what I have done. I have built a life that I do not want to escape from. I really love my life, and I am a rich man, and not in the sense of monetary or dollars. I am a rich man in the sense of peace and contentment, and the people in my life and the life that I live. I absolutely adore my life, and I do not want to escape it. And so that is something that always motivates me to keep doing what I'm doing, because the results that I've gotten have been wonderful.
Right.
You know?
Well, I know Melanie from the theater.
Mm-hmm.
What do you like about her?
Oh, oh my God, the list is endless. She is one of the most, she's one of the most loving, kind people I've ever known. The personality is bigger than life. She is a hoot to be around, sharp as a tack, and her ability to see through me, not only see through me, but to see me like nobody I've ever been around. I can walk in the room and she can instantly just kind of go, something's on your mind. And I've not even said a word, and maybe it's just an energy I carry in the room. She sees it and she asks me about it, and that's one of the things that I love is she asks me about it. She doesn't make assumptions about it, she doesn't just right. I did something or whatever, right? But she asks me about it, and she's a wonderful listener, and I can sit down and tell her anything, and without fear of any kind of judgment or negativity coming back from her. She loves me for exactly who I am. And, here's a testament to, I believe at least, I've always kind of thought to myself, or I've made the joke, I guess, if you want to find out how strong your relationship is, go kayaking together.
Oh, really?
Two people in a kayak, one up front, one in back, each of you has to paddle to get from point A to point B. And I've been out kayaking and have watched more people in a kayak getting just pissed and irritated at each other because you're not paddling, or paddle the other side, or stop paddling, or whatever, right? But here's Melanie and I we've done this a couple of times where we've taken road trips, and we just took a long road trip. We left here a week ago Friday, and we drove to Roswell, New Mexico. And stayed a few days there. My mom lives there, spent Mother's Day with my mom. Anyway, we left Roswell, we drove to Santa Fe, and then we drove up to Taos and a couple of nights at Taos. And then we drove to Flagstaff, and then down to Sedona and Cottonwood and Jerome, and slowly just made our way back home. Anyway, the point is we were gone a week, Friday to a Friday, and we spent, I set the trip meter on my truck before we left. So it was a little over 2,000 miles of driving.
Really? That much?
Yeah.
Wow.
But it also counts the number of hours that we were in the vehicle together. 35 hours of that was spent just her and I in the truck. And at no point did we ever feel like we wanted to get away from the other person, right?
Right.
I think that's just a really solid testament to two people, really. If you can spend 35 hours in a vehicle with one person and love them and laugh with them and joke with them and not feel the need that you have to talk all 35 hours.
Right.
Then, yeah, it's great.
Yeah, that's a biggie. Just having it be okay to be silent.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Perfectly comfortable being silent. So, we've been together 6 years, and, she is the relationship I have with her is a relationship I think I've always wanted. Maybe I didn't always know that that's what I wanted, but right. Once I got it, I go, oh shit, that's what I want right there. And, it's magical. It's wonderful.
So what are your aspirations? Where do you go from here?
Well, my aspirations are keep doing what I'm doing. I love to travel, and so Melanie and I love to whether we on a road trip or we go to Mexico or go to wherever we go, but we love to travel. So I'd love to continue to travel and see the world. Hopefully
Have you been to Europe or anything?
No, we were talking about it last summer. We have a friend who is going to get married in Italy, and so we were all set to go go to their wedding, and we have some friends that are in Paris, and so we were going to go to Paris. We'll stay with our friends in Paris for a few days. We'll go to Italy. We'll go to the wedding, and then Melanie has a friend that lives in Greece, and so we were going to then shoot down to Greece. So we had a whole plan, and then the wedding got postponed. They got married. They were basically doing two weddings, an LA wedding and a Italy wedding. He's Italian, so his family's in Italy. Anyway, they decided to hold off and go at another time, so that didn't happen. But yeah, we're definitely continue to kind of talk about, well, let's go to Paris because we have some friends in Paris, and it'll be great to go there. And
I love Europe. I think I was there in a former life or something.
Right?
Because I am more comfortable there, seriously, than I am here.
Really, what is it about it that you feel?
I don't know. It's like the pace, the food, the people. Obviously, it's gorgeous. I've been, I don't know, maybe 5 countries over there, I think.
Okay, wow.
But
Nice.
yeah, but I love Italy. I love France. My goal is now Portugal and Spain and Germany. I haven't been there.
Yeah.
To Belgium. My least favorite was Britain.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Always-
London was okay, but I don't know. It didn't do anything for me.
Nothing to write home about, huh?
No. And I,
Yeah.
well, Wilkinson, I'm supposed to be English. I took that DNA spit test thing. It turns out somebody was fooling around because I'm almost all Irish. Oops.
I think the DNA thing is waking a few people up, or yeah.
Wow. But yeah, so I want to. I mentioned when you came, I'm getting my house ready to put on the market and sell. And one of the things I want to do is travel more. Yeah. Plus, I want to take my podcast on the road. There's people everywhere, and I resisted doing the Zoom type podcast so far because I really like sitting with people.
I couldn't agree with you more. You know, in what I do, I love the energy that's just between two people sitting in a room. And some of that's lost in Zoom. However, that all being said, you know, it's one of the good things that came out of COVID.
Right.
Is Zoom is now a much more accessible and doable thing that people do, and so I do Zoom as well. I mean, I you know, as I've talked earlier with you, I mean, I have clients. They're not all here locally, so I have an office here locally for individuals to see one-on-one.
Right.
And then I also do some Zoom. I have clients in other states, and so I can do that. So that's the beauty of Zoom as well, because as me and Melanie want to travel more, I can have that as an option of continuing to do work wherever I am through Zoom.
Right. Well, for me, because this is obviously an audio podcast, which I tweak and make into a video because I do sound waves on it, so I can be on YouTube. But I don't know if I'm doing Zoom. There's another program. It's Riverside something. I have to look it up. That is better than Zoom, and it's easier to work with if you're a podcaster. Okay. But I don't know. I don't know if I want to go to video. The audio is, it was surprising because I'm on like 25 or 30 different channels, all of Spotify and Google and all that stuff. But yeah, I wasn't on YouTube at first because I thought, well, that's video. And then I found out that YouTube this is like a year and a half ago. I don't know what it is now. But 44% of the audio market is on YouTube.
Oh, wow, really?
So Spotify, Google, and Apple combined don't have as much as YouTube on audio.
Oh, wow. That's incredible. And a wonderful option, right? I mean, to be able to...
Well, this whole theater thing is like totally screwed up my podcast schedule. Because, I was there every day. We just closed, as you know, one of the shows, but our season ended. But I got to get back on track. You're my first back at it. So,
well, I really, really, really appreciate you having me on. It's a pleasure to be here chatting with you.
Thank you for coming in. Did we not talk about anything you wanted to talk about?
No, I think we covered it. I think I'll throw out my my website and my email if you don't mind.
Yeah, we'll put all that in the in the episode notes.
Okay, perfect.
They can find you and they can buy a book.
Yep.
Or is it on? Amazon?
It's on Amazon, exact. It's on Amazon and Barnes and Noble, but Amazon, is easiest, I think.
Cool. All right. Thank you for coming in.
Thank you so much.
Tell Melanie hi for me.
I'll do it. Absolutely.
All right. Thanks again, Joe.
You bet, Wilkinson.